The story did not begin with humans. Long before their kind arrived in the stars, other civilizations had already mapped the galaxy, built cities across suns, and explored countless worlds. They thought they had seen every danger the universe could offer: black holes, collapsing stars, superweapons from dead empires. But nothing prepared them for the world that came to be known in hushed voices as Vayrad Prime. It was a planet wrapped in endless jungle. From orbit, its surface looked alive, green seas of trees stretching to every horizon. At first, explorers saw beauty. They imagined colonies, rich harvests, and new trade routes. But the first landing shattered all hope. The jungle was not just alive. It was hostile. Every vine was venomous, every insect carried poisons, every shadow hid a predator. Yet even in this land of nightmares, one creature stood above the rest. The alien records named it simply the Karthok beast. No picture captured its true terror. Accounts differed. Some said it moved like a blur, faster than plasma fire. Others swore its hide was harder than ship armor, razor-sharp ridges reflecting the moonlight. Its jaws dripped venom that melted steel. Its claws tore through mechs as if they were cloth. But all witnesses agreed on one truth. The Karthok was death given form. The first hunters came with pride. They believed technology could tame the wild. Armored strike teams landed with heavy weapons. Traps were laid, drones deployed, skies filled with fire. None returned. The jungle swallowed them. Communication feeds ended in screams and static. The beasts struck from nowhere, tearing ships apart before they could lift off. A single Karthok could scatter armies. A dozen could level cities. One colony after another was erased from existence. Word spread quickly. Entire fleets refused orders to approach Vayrad Prime. The great empires debated extermination strikes, but even orbital bombardment proved futile. The beasts burrowed deep, survived firestorms, and returned stronger. Finally, the Galactic Council gathered. One decision was made, written in law across 1,000 star systems. Vayrad Prime is forbidden. No ship may land. No colony may rise. That world belongs to the beasts. For centuries, the law was obeyed. The planet was sealed, a scar on every star map, a reminder that not everything could be conquered. Children were told stories of the Karthok, whispered at night as lessons in fear. Even the bravest soldiers shuddered when they heard the name, and so the planet slept. The jungle grew thicker. The beasts grew stronger, until the day the humans came. They were not the oldest race, not the most powerful. By galactic standards, they were newcomers, reckless, loud, endlessly curious. Many species saw them as dangerous children, bold enough to poke at things wiser beings left alone. It was no surprise, then, when one day scanners caught the heat flare of a human vessel descending through the forbidden atmosphere. The Council debated in panic, expecting yet another doomed expedition. Surely within hours the humans would vanish like all the others, but the ship did not crash. Its hull burned bright as it pierced the storms, engines howling until it landed on the jungle floor. The aliens who monitored the feed leaned close to their screens. What would the humans bring? Heavy cannons? Bombardment drills? Would they attempt to wipe out the Karthok by sheer force? The hatch opened. What stepped out shocked everyone, not armies, not war machines. But a small team, scientists, explorers, soldiers for safety, yes, but also something unexpected. Men and women carrying packs of tools, cameras, even strange boxes that gave off the smell of spices. The humans did not march as conquerors. They moved as if entering a laboratory, careful, watching. Measuring the ground, touching the plants, scanning the air, the jungle stirred around them. Every creature had felt the vibration of landing. Somewhere in the shadows, eyes opened. The hunters were being hunted. Above, in orbit, the Council ships whispered warnings over the open channels. Turn back. You don't understand what waits in there. Leave before it is too late. But the humans did not answer. Instead, they walked deeper into the green abyss. The forest grew darker. Trees twisted like claws. Strange calls echoed in the distance, shrill, guttural, inhuman. The ground shook with something massive moving just beyond sight. The aliens watching the live feed felt a chill. They knew that rhythm. The heavy, deliberate footfalls of a predator, too large for reason. The first Karthok had awakened. Branches snapped. Shadows split. And then, with terrifying speed, it was upon them. The creature was worse than legend. Its hide rippled with jagged ridges. Its fangs dripped acid that hissed when it struck the ground. Eyes burning yellow, body towering over the humans, it lunged with a roar that rattled even the orbiting ships. The feed went white with motion. Aliens cried out, already expecting the screams that always followed, but this time, there were no screams. When the picture cleared, the humans still stood. Smoke drifted from handheld launchers. Nets of fire glowed across the trees. Drones buzzed in tight formations, driving the beast into confusion. The humans moved not with panic, but with practiced precision, shouts short and clipped. Every step coordinated. The Karthok fell, thrashing, its body shaking the ground before it finally stilled. The silence afterward was crushing. Aliens stared, stunned. No species had ever killed a Karthok in direct combat. Not once in history. And yet the humans were already moving again. Not cheering, not even pausing to admire the kill. Instead, they gathered around the beast's corpse. With calm focus, they began dragging it back toward their camp. Their voices carried through the feed, casual, almost cheerful. The council ships orbiting above could not comprehend. Why would anyone take the body? Why not burn it, study it from afar, or leave it behind? No alien could guess the answer. Not yet. But in that moment, for the first time in centuries, the legend of the Karthok was broken, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Karthok's body lay heavy in the mud, steam rising where its blood ate into the ground. For other species, this sight would have been a final image. Soldiers dead, cities lost, legends carved in fear. But for the humans, this was only the beginning. Around the fallen beast, the expedition team moved with practiced ease. The soldiers set perimeter drones, glowing red eyes sweeping the jungle. Scientists crouched beside the corpse, scanning tissue and muttering notes. The strangest of all were the ones who carried knives not meant for war, but for kitchens. They tested the beast's hide with blades, murmuring to one another about texture, toughness, and marbling. Aliens watching the live feed could barely believe what they saw. To them, the Karthok was a terror beyond imagining, an apex predator that could rip through armored lines. Yet these humans bent over its body like craftsmen at work. Curiosity brighter than fear. The jungle did not give them time to rest. From the shadows came the warning signs, a low tremor in the ground, a chorus of shrieks echoing through the canopy, a foul wind that carried the musk of predators. The humans looked up together, their helmets shining in the dim green light. The forest was stirring again. Another was coming, the air split with motion. A second Karthok burst from the trees, its charge so fast it blurred. Its roar shook the earth. Aliens in orbit shouted warnings into open comms, but the humans were already moving. The soldiers opened fire, not with heavy cannons, but with controlled bursts, distracting, herding, never panicked. The beast lunged, but the humans fell back in a pattern, guiding it between drone swarms that flashed and sparked. Explosives hidden in the soil erupted, throwing mud and flame into its path. Still the beast pressed on undaunted. Its tail lashed, snapping trees. One drone was sliced apart, crashing in sparks. For a heartbeat, it seemed the humans would finally be overwhelmed. Just like every other species before them, then came the moment that stunned even their watchers. A soldier leapt directly into the monster's path. Not fleeing, attacking. With a launcher on his shoulder, he fired point-blank into its jaw. The explosion tore half its face, staggering the beast. Before it could recover, the others struck together. Plasma bursts into its joints, nets of burning filament binding its limbs. A final barrage of drones blinding it with fire. The beast crashed into the dirt, its roars fading to silence. The aliens were speechless. 2 Karthok felled in a single day. The records of centuries were breaking before their eyes, but again what the humans did next was even more shocking. They didn't cheer. They didn't drag the carcass to be burned. Instead, they set to work as if nothing was unusual. One group took samples of blood, carefully storing it in sealed containers. Another team began carving into the beast's flesh with efficiency, separating bones, organs, and thick cuts of meat. The alien observers recoiled in horror. Meat? No species dared to think of the Karthok that way. Its very name was a curse, a shadow that haunted their dreams. To slice it open as though it were livestock was madness. The human commander's voice carried across the feed, calm and clear. Secure samples. Prioritize muscle tissue. Let's see what we're dealing with. In the middle of the camp, the strangest sight of all appeared. A pair of humans unfolded a cooking station, portable burners, metal racks, and the strange boxes that hissed with heat. They seasoned slabs of the beast's flesh with powdered spices carried from Earth. Their hands steady, their voices casual. The smell began to spread. It was strong. Sharp, wild, alien in every way, yet rich and mouth-watering. Night fell heavy on Vayrad Prime. The jungle changed with the darkness. What had been thick green shadows by day became a black ocean of movement by night. Eyes glowed in the distance. Shrill calls echoed overhead. Somewhere far away, trees cracked and fell as something vast moved through the undergrowth. The humans knew they were surrounded. Yet in the middle of this nightmare world, their camp blazed with firelight, drones hovering in tight formations, barriers humming with static energy. The humans did not cower. They did not retreat to their ship. Instead, they cooked. The first kill still lay on the racks. Massive cuts of Karthok meat sliced from bone and seasoned with bright powders. The cooks moved quickly, their knives flashing, separating layers of muscle, carving away organs, trimming hide for later study. The sound of blades on bone echoed like a ritual. For other species, handling the flesh of a Karthok would have been unthinkable. The very idea was sacrilege, like carving the corpse of a god. But to the humans, it was an opportunity too tempting to ignore. Good structure, one cook muttered as he sliced open a thick slab. Dense fibers. Strong connective tissue. Reminds me of bull, only tougher. Another chuckled. Marinated overnight, it'll soften. Everything tastes better with time and spice. The soldiers guarding the perimeter laughed. They were not afraid. To them, the Karthok was no longer legend. It was dinner. High above, alien observers could not believe what they were seeing. Feeds transmitted across the galaxy, and one by one civilizations gathered to watch. From war halls to temples, from merchant stations to research academies, billions of eyes followed the humans' every move. They expected fear. They expected humans to burn the body in terror or retreat after the first taste of victory. Instead, the humans showed no fear at all. They sharpened their knives, stirred their spices, and began roasting the deadliest predator in history. The first meal had been simple, seared meat over fire, eaten quickly to test its safety. But now, with night closing in, the humans became creative. They built proper fires, laid stones for heat, hung meat on skewers and racks. They cooked slow, patient, deliberate. The smell carried through the camp, rich and smoky. The jungle itself seemed confused. Predators circled, drawn by the scent of blood but repelled by the fire and noise. The eyes in the dark stayed back, restless, waiting. The aliens, meanwhile, could not understand. One council scientist whispered into the open channel, "They should be dead. The flesh should corrode their insides. No metabolism can process that venom." But the humans were alive, strong, laughing. Their strange immune systems and clever preparation had turned poison into food. At last, one of the cooks pulled a skewer from the fire. Meat dripping with fat, edges crisp and golden. He took a slow bite, chewed and grinned. Better than the last one. Almost like lamb, the soldiers cheered. Plates passed around. For them, this was not just survival. It was triumph. To eat what others feared was proof of their place in the galaxy. Around the fire, they told stories. One spoke of Earth's crocodiles, once thought unstoppable until humans hunted and cooked them. Another recalled the bulls of Spain, fierce and powerful, yet turned into feasts after the arena. Still another laughed about sharks, wolves, and bears, predators that once terrified Earth but ended up on human plates. "To us," the commander said, raising a piece of meat, "there's no monster that can't be broken down. If it breathes, it can bleed. If it bleeds, it can be cooked." The team roared with laughter, clinking cups together. The aliens, however, were silent. For them, this was more frightening than the Karthok itself. These humans were not just killers. They were transformers. Where others saw terror, humans saw opportunity. Where others saw a forbidden world, humans saw a kitchen. Whispers began to spread across the networks. Religious leaders called it heresy. Soldiers feared what it meant. Merchants whispered of new markets. Some races felt admiration. Others felt dread. One alien elder muttered to her council, "If they can eat the Karthok, what will stop them from eating anything?" Back on the planet, the humans finished their feast. Bones were stacked neatly. Hides were cleaned and folded for study. The venom sacs, once deadly, were sealed in containers for testing. Nothing was wasted. Then the perimeter sensors beeped. The jungle had gone quiet. Too quiet. The commander rose, scanning the tree line. Heat signatures appeared on the drone's displays, dozens of them circling closer. The ground trembled with heavy steps. Branches snapped like brittle sticks. The Karthok were not finished. From the shadows came their shapes, larger than before, eyes glowing, jaws dripping. Not one, not two, but an entire pack, drawn by the death of their kind, enraged by the smell of blood and fire. The humans did not run. The cooks set down their knives. The soldiers raised their rifles. The commander gave the order, voice calm and sharp. Defensive line. Hold the fire. Show them we're not prey. The jungle exploded. The beasts charged faster than storms, teeth flashing in the firelight. Above, alien fleets watched in frozen silence. They knew what always came next. Screams, slaughter, silence. But these were humans, and humans had fire. And knives. The battle in the jungle raged through the night. Fire roared. Drones screamed overhead, and the ground shook with the weight of charging beasts. But by dawn the humans still stood. The Karthok were dead, not one, not two. An entire pack of them lay scattered around the camp, their monstrous bodies steaming in the morning mist. The alien fleets orbiting above sent the footage back to their homeworlds. Within hours the galaxy was watching. Within days the galaxy was whispering, and within weeks the galaxy was divided. The first messages came from the outer colonies. Traders who had lost family to the forbidden planet stared at the footage in disbelief. For generations, the Karthok had been spoken of only in warnings and nightmares. Now humans were slicing them apart with knives, laughing around fires as if nothing were wrong. On one station, an old merchant dropped his cup when the hollow screen showed humans seasoning Karthok ribs with spices. His voice shook as he whispered, "They've turned demons into dinner." The military worlds reacted with anger. Generals called emergency councils, their voices booming across chambers filled with steel and banners. To them, the humans were reckless children poking at forces too dangerous to disturb. One general slammed his fist on the table. "They are violating sacred quarantine laws. If the beasts spread beyond their world, it will be humanity's fault. The humans must be stopped before they unleash catastrophe," but not all agreed. Some commanders leaned closer to the footage, studying the humans' tactics, their coordination, their calm under pressure. One warlord muttered, almost in awe, "Look at them. They face death and they laugh. Imagine what they could do with proper weapons. Imagine them as allies." The religious orders spoke next. Priests and prophets declared the humans cursed, blasphemous. They preached across temple worlds, their voices rising in fear. "The Karthok are punishment. They are divine guardians of forbidden ground. To eat their flesh is sacrilege. Humanity has defied the will of the stars." Some followers wept. Others rioted. Entire sects split apart, half demanding holy war against humans, half whispering that perhaps the humans were chosen, given strength beyond reason. The scientists, however, were transfixed. They pored over every frame of the recordings, the humans' immune systems neutralizing poisons, their culinary methods breaking down toxins, their strange resistance to fear. In research halls filled with glowing data screens, scholars debated furiously. "No known biology can digest Karthok tissue," one shouted. "And yet they did," another countered. "It is impossible." "Then explain why they're alive." Reports multiplied. Humans were not only surviving the beasts, they were thriving, studying, experimenting, taming. For scientists, it was no longer a question of if, it was a question of how far. The merchants saw opportunity. In shadowed bazaars and bright trade stations, voices whispered of new markets. If humans could make the Karthok edible, if they could cook the uncookable, then perhaps there was profit to be made. Recipes, spices, trade contracts, all became subjects of secret deals. One merchant laughed as he poured wine for his rivals. "The rest of you see madness. I see the birth of the galaxy's rarest delicacy." And then came the council. Representatives of 100 species gathered in the great chamber, their voices overlapping in chaos. Hollow screens showed humans dragging carcasses, cutting meat, testing venom sacs, even feeding samples to livestock brought aboard their ship. The hall thundered with argument. "They will bring ruin. They have broken sacred law. No, look at what they have done. They turn terror into food. They are dangerous." They are remarkable. Finally, the council leader silenced them all with a single strike of the staff. His voice carried through the chamber. Enough. Humanity has crossed a line. We must summon them here. They will answer for what they have done. A murmur spread across the chamber, some in agreement, some in fear. One ambassador whispered to her neighbor, "You don't summon humans. They come when they want to. And when they come, nothing is ever the same." Meanwhile, on Vayrad Prime, the humans were unaware of the storm their actions had unleashed. They sat by their fires, cataloging samples, storing data, sharpening knives. They joked and told stories, unaware that billions of alien eyes watched their every move with awe, terror, and hunger. The summons arrived like thunder. The human expedition had barely completed their first survey when a council ship descended from orbit, its vast shadow blotting out the jungle sun. Drones hovered close, weapons primed, voices echoing through translators. "Humans," the message boomed, "you are ordered to present yourselves before the Galactic Council. You will answer for your actions." The humans exchanged glances. Soldiers checked weapons, scientists secured samples, cooks sealed their spices. Their commander simply nodded. "Pack it up," he said. "We're going to dinner." The council chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives of every major race had gathered, their voices a storm of argument. The humans entered calmly, boots echoing on the marble floor, dragging crates behind them. The council leader rose, towering, his face grim. "Humans," he declared, "you have broken sacred quarantine. You have slain the Karthok and desecrated their flesh. Do you deny it?" The human commander stood tall. "No," he said. "We did it." A ripple of outrage tore through the chamber. Fists pounded, tendrils writhed, wings flared. The council leader struck his staff to silence them. "Then you admit your crime." The commander's voice was steady. "We admit no crime. We faced danger and we survived. That is no crime. That is life." Gasps filled the hall. Some ambassadors whispered in anger. Others stared with a spark of something else, admiration. One elder leaned forward, his voice sharp. "You think yourself clever. You think slaying a beast makes you strong. But the Karthok are not prey. They are the untamed. They cannot be controlled." The chamber hushed. "If you believe you are different," the elder continued, "prove it. Do not merely kill the Karthok. Tame them, control them, farm them as you do your cattle and swine. Show us that humans can turn nightmare into harvest." The chamber erupted again, some shouting approval, others calling the challenge madness. But the humans did not flinch. The commander only asked one question. "And what do we receive if we succeed?" The council leader narrowed his eyes. "Recognition and fear. If you can do this, none will doubt your place in the stars. Fail, and your species will be forbidden from the council forever." The human commander smiled. "Then we accept." The experiment began on Vayrad Prime. Under the council's watchful eyes, humans built enclosures of steel and energy fields. They planted bait, lured young Karthok into traps, and tested tranquilizers on the monsters that no other species dared touch. At first, the attempts were chaos. Nets shredded, barriers collapsed. Soldiers barely escaped with their lives. More than once, a Karthok tore free, charging into the jungle in fury. The council representatives watching shook their heads. They will fail. The beasts cannot be broken. But the humans learned. Each failure became a lesson. They studied the creatures' patterns, their calls, their hunting grounds. They mapped the beasts' behavior, noted their feeding cycles, even analyzed how they reacted to certain sounds. Bit by bit, the chaos began to change. Tranquilizers were refined, doses adjusted, chemicals balanced until the venomous blood no longer corroded the darts. Enclosures were reinforced with alloys that resisted acid. Drones circled constantly, guiding the beasts into controlled areas. And slowly, the unthinkable happened. A Karthok was captured alive. The council gasped as footage spread across the galaxy. A living monster thrashing in a containment pen, roaring in fury, but unable to escape. The humans stood outside the enclosure, calm and steady, recording every movement. It was only the beginning. Within weeks, they had more. Smaller beasts, juveniles, even an egg cluster, carefully secured in a chamber with heating lamps and nutrient scans. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. "This is wrong," one priest whispered, watching the creatures pace inside their cages. "They are devils, not animals. But the humans treated them as both. Scientists studied them, soldiers guarded them, and the cooks, always the cooks, took samples of their meat, experimenting with flavors and preservation. One night, by the light of the campfire, a human biologist summed it up simply. They're dangerous, yes, but so were wolves once, and now we call them dogs. Months passed. What had once been impossible became routine. The humans built controlled pens, bred the beasts in captivity, even trained some to respond to signals. What others had called demons, humans now called livestock. The council convened again. The evidence was undeniable. Hollow screens showed pens filled with roaring beasts, secured and studied. Others showed human kitchens where Carthok steaks were cooked and served with ease. The chamber was silent. Finally, the council leader spoke. You have done what none believed possible. You have not only slain the Carthok, you have bent them to your will. The human commander's reply was simple. No beast is untouchable. Fear is just the excuse of those who never tried. The words echoed across the galaxy. Some species trembled, seeing in humans not just survivors, but masters of the impossible. Others cheered, believing the age of human ascendancy had begun. Merchants salivated at the thought of trading what was once forbidden. Priests screamed of apocalypse, but no one denied it anymore. The humans had taken the galaxy's greatest nightmare and turned it into food, and now they had proven they could breed it. The galaxy was forever changed. The invitation shocked the galaxy. It arrived on every council channel, marked with human humor and confidence. You are cordially invited to a banquet. The main course Carthok. Some leaders thought it was a joke. Others thought it was bait, a trick to lure ambassadors into death. But curiosity is a strong force, even stronger than fear. And so, despite protests and threats, the council gathered once again, this time not in judgment but as guests. The banquet hall was prepared by human hands. Long tables stretched beneath banners of stars. Warm firelight flickered from lamps along the walls, their smoke carrying the scent of spices. Drones hovered quietly above, recording every detail for the galaxy to see. At the center stood the humans, not in armor this time, but in uniforms of white and black, chef's coats, clean aprons, polished knives gleaming under the light. The aliens entered cautiously. Predators and prey species alike shifted uneasily. The air itself seemed heavy with dread, for they all knew what dish was coming. The council leader raised his voice. Humans, you mock us with this spectacle. You would feed us death itself. This is madness. The human commander only smiled. No, this is history. The first course was served. Plates were laid before the guests, thin slices of Carthok flank, grilled over human fire and glazed with honey imported from Earth. The meat shimmered, juices glistening. The smell filled the chamber, rich, smoky, layered with herbs. The aliens stared at it as if it were poison. For centuries, the very name of the beast had meant death. To see it carved and plated like common game was almost unbearable. The humans waited patiently, hands folded behind their backs. At last, one ambassador, a frail scholar from a minor world, leaned forward. His fingers shook as he lifted a piece. He smelled it, eyes wide. Then, with the trembling courage of curiosity, he tasted it. The chamber froze. He chewed. His eyes closed. And then slowly his body relaxed. His voice, when it came, was soft with disbelief. It is delicious, gasps echoed through the room. The scholar reached for another bite. This time he did not tremble. The hall erupted in whispers. Some guests pushed their plates away, horrified. Others leaned forward, unable to resist. Hunger warred with fear, and one by one the fear began to lose. A warrior from the Croth tasted, then devoured his plate, pounding the table in approval. A merchant species squealed with delight at the flavor, already scribbling trade contracts in their datapads. Even priests, trembling and muttering prayers, could not deny the truth when they finally swallowed the forbidden meat. It was extraordinary. The humans served more. Roasted ribs, spiced and dripping. Steaks seared until tender. Soup brewed from the beast's bones, rich and steaming. Every dish was more daring than the last, each recipe designed to show mastery over what had once been untouchable. The aliens who tasted could not stop. Their eyes widened, their voices grew louder, their hands reached for more. The chamber filled with the sound of chewing, laughter, disbelief, and even joy. But not all were pleased. Some ambassadors sat rigid, refusing even a glance at their plates. They whispered of curses, of doom, of humans who had gone too far. To them, the banquet was not triumph, but warning. One priest slammed his cup to the ground and shouted, "This is not food. This is blasphemy. They have devoured the sacred terror. They have broken the order of the stars." His cries were drowned by the laughter of merchants and the cheers of soldiers who had once feared the Karthok. The humans continued their service calmly. To them, this was not mockery. It was demonstration. At the end of the meal, the commander rose, lifting a cup filled with dark wine. His voice carried across the chamber. "You feared the Karthok. You declared them untouchable. You called them death. But we are human. We do not bow to fear. We do not worship monsters. We turn them into meals." He raised his cup higher. "To survival. To courage. To the simple truth, everything can be changed." The guests lifted their cups. Some joined in cheers. Others stayed silent, eyes dark with unease, but none could deny the truth any longer. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned nightmare into harvest, terror into feast. The galaxy did not sleep after the banquet. Across thousands of worlds, whispers spread like fire. Some spoke with wonder. The humans have no fear. They make the impossible ordinary. Others spoke with dread. If they can tame the Karthok, what can't they tame? Markets surged with rumors of Karthok meat trade. Religious leaders warned of apocalypse. Generals rewrote their defense plans. Merchants dreamed of riches. But everywhere one truth gnawed at every mind. The humans had crossed a line no one else dared approach. They had turned terror into dinner, and no one could decide whether that made them saviors or monsters. The council leader convened in secret chambers. The hall was dark, guarded by drones that silenced even whispers. Only the most powerful voices of the galaxy sat at the table. "They are reckless," hissed one warlord, his scales rattling. "They break every boundary. If unchecked, they will consume the galaxy as they consumed the beasts." "They are brilliant," countered a merchant, eyes glowing with greed. "They succeed where we fail. Why fear such power when we can profit from it?" A priest slammed his staff to the floor. "You fools! Do you not see? They do not worship as we do. They do not fear as we do. They have no limits. To them nothing is sacred. That is their danger." The chamber grew silent. Each leader remembered the banquet, the human commander raising his cup with calm defiance. "They do not worship monsters," the priest whispered, trembling. "Which means one day they may not worship us." Meanwhile, the humans returned to their ship. The scientists reviewed their data, pleased with the results. The soldiers cleaned their weapons, calm as always. The cooks packed their knives, already planning new recipes. To them, the banquet was not an act of war or blasphemy. It was simply proof. Proof that humans could take fear itself, cut it down, and serve it with wine. The commander stood at the viewing window, watching stars drift past. He could almost feel the galaxy's eyes upon him. "They're afraid," said one of his officers quietly. "Good," the commander replied. "Fear keeps them watching. And when they watch, they'll learn." "Learn what?" The commander's smile was small, sharp. "That fear is just another resource. And humans never waste resources. On distant worlds, children began to play a new game. They drew pictures of the Karthok, horned, fanged, terrifying. But beside the monster, they drew small humans in aprons, holding knives and forks. The children laughed as they pretended to cook the beast. Priests wept at the sight. But merchants only smiled. Even myths could be marketed, but not all stories were harmless. Reports surfaced of Karthok meat spreading illegally across the stars. Some smugglers claimed to own breeding pairs. Others boasted of farms hidden in asteroid fields. Each claim was half rumor, half truth, and all dangerous. The council panicked. If the beast spread uncontrolled, entire systems could fall. And who would be blamed? Not the smugglers. Not the merchants. Always the finger pointed back to humanity. "Contain them," one general demanded. "Ban their ships," said another. "Destroy them before they destroy us," hissed a third. But even as they spoke, deep in their hearts they knew the truth. It was already too late. The humans had unleashed more than meat. They had unleashed an idea, and ideas cannot be caged. On Earth, news of the banquet reached billions. People cheered, laughed, and toasted the bravery of their explorers. Only humans, they said proudly, would look at death and see dinner. But in darker corners of the galaxy, other voices whispered, if they can make the Karthok their livestock, what will they make of us? The galaxy began to change, alliances shifted. Trade routes bent toward Earth. Some species moved closer, seeking protection. Others pulled away, building fleets in secret. Fear and fascination intertwined until no one could tell where one ended and the other began. But for humanity, the path was clear. They had survived their first great trial among the stars. They had taken the galaxy's greatest terror and reduced it to a harvest. And now, with knives sharpened and ovens lit, they looked forward, because there were other forbidden worlds, other monsters, other myths waiting in the dark. To humans, those were not warnings. They were invitations. In the end, the galaxy agreed on one thing. The Karthok were no longer the deadliest beasts in the stars. The deadliest beasts now walked on two legs, smiled with knives in hand, and called themselves human. And for the first time in countless centuries, the galaxy shuddered not at the monsters of the jungle, but at the thought of what humans might cook next. The galaxy thought the humans had reached their peak with the Karthok banquet. But the truth was darker. It had only been the beginning. For while the council debated and priests wailed, something else stirred in the void. Across the forbidden regions of the galaxy, uncharted stars, nameless planets, ruins of long-dead civilizations, there were creatures older than the Karthok. Creatures so rare, so terrible, that even myths feared to whisper their names. The council had hidden them away, sealed maps, erased records. But humans, ever curious, ever hungry, began to ask the one question no one else dared. If we could eat the Karthok, what else can we find? It began with whispers of a new human ship, black-hulled and silent, vanishing into the dark without council approval. Its name was simple, the Harvester. Crewed by volunteers, half explorers, half cooks, they carried no banners of war. Their weapons were secondary. Their true tools were knives, cages, and kitchens. Their mission to seek the forbidden beasts of legend and bring them home. The first target was not a myth, but close, the Veyrath Leviathan, a serpent of the void, a creature that swam through the vacuum of space as if it were ocean. Its hide could crush ships, its maw could swallow cruisers whole. Generations of hunters had died trying to face it. Entire fleets had been lost, but the humans didn't come with fleets, they came with bait. The Harvester released massive pods into the void, filled with sound and chemical trails designed to mimic the Leviathan's prey. They waited in silence, watching the darkness. Then, movement. The serpent appeared, vast as a mountain, scales shimmering like molten glass. Its body curled through the void, eyes glowing with alien fire. It lunged, jaws wide, and straight into the human's trap. Energy nets flared. Harpoons launched, embedding into its scales. Tranquilizer drones swarmed, pumping the beast full of chemical storms engineered to calm even nightmares. The Leviathan thrashed, stars shuddering in its wake. Ships nearby reported shockwaves strong enough to rattle their cores, but the humans did not break. Hours passed. The beast slowed. Its movements grew sluggish. And finally, impossibly, it stilled. The Harvester dragged the monster into containment. For the first time in history, the galaxy's greatest space serpent was captured alive. News traveled fast. The council erupted in fury. "They are insane," one leader screamed. "To bring the Leviathan into controlled space is suicide." But others leaned forward with hungry eyes. "If they can cage it," said a merchant softly, "then they can sell it." And then the footage leaked. It showed the Leviathan, mighty and defeated, coiled in containment fields. It showed humans walking along its scales, measuring, studying, cutting samples. And it showed the final moment, a chef in a white coat, standing before the galaxy, lifting a sizzling pan toward the camera. Inside was a steak, seared golden, steam rising from the flesh of the void serpent itself. He smiled into the lens. Leviathan. Served fresh, the galaxy broke. Riots flared on holy worlds. Priests called for holy war against the defilers of creation. Merchants salivated, offering fortunes for the meat. Soldiers wondered aloud what humans might cook next, perhaps even the beasts hidden in their own homeworld jungles. And deep in secret chambers, some leaders whispered what all feared: if humans can eat the void itself, how long before they turn their knives on us? But for humanity, the mission had only begun. The Harvester set course for another star. In their records there were names of forgotten terrors, the glass fang of Rios, the shadow that hunts thought, the crawlers beneath time. Each one was a myth to the galaxy, but to humans they were simply the next course. The galaxy trembled. For the first time it was not the beasts of legend that haunted the night. It was the hunters in human skin, with knives, nets, and fire. And they were still hungry.